role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Just before I continue, we've got some COVID notes for tonight's meeting. Today's council meeting has been planned in line with the Victorian Government's COVID safe public event framework and the latest public health directions. We ask you to help by following a few simple rules. We ask that you please check in using the QR code, which is located at the entrance. If you didn't do this, please ask one of our staff members and they'll help you to do that. Please greet people with a smile or wave. Don't shake hands, hug or kiss those who aren't from your household. Maintain a physical distance of 1.5 metre between yourself and anyone you don't live with. Always carry a face mask with you unless you have a lawful reason not to. It is strongly recommended you wear one whenever you cannot keep 1.5 distance from others. Practice good hygiene. Wash your hands regularly and cough and sneeze into a tissue or your elbow. And please use the hand sanitizer provided. If you have any COVID symptoms, in the interest of keeping us all safe, we'd be very grateful if you would please leave immediately, get tested, and of course isolate while you wait your results. Thank you for that. This evening we've got all councillors present, so there's no apologies or leave of absence. Councillors, you've got the agenda before you. Do we have any declarations of interest or conflicts of interest?
No.
No, that's good. Note that. Confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we've got the minutes of the meeting of council of the 16th of February 2021. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Anea.
I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Mount Alexander Shire Council held on 16th of February 2021 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Anea. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Henderson. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is acknowledgements. Is nil. The next section is public question time, and we've got some questions which have been emailed or sent in, and we'll deal with those first, but then we'll open it up to the public for public questions. When you get 3 minutes to address council, and you can ask a question, and at the end, if we're able to give you an answer, we'll give you an answer. But yeah, so it's you know, keep on track with your questions. Okay, so councillors, we'll have a motion to suspend standing orders, please. Councillor Henderson.
I move that we suspend standing orders for public question time.
Seconder, please. Councillor Driscoll, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, the first question has specifically been requested that Councillor Henderson read it, so I'll hand over to you, Councillor Henderson. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I can ask, is this a good level of sound for everyone? Can I be heard? Yes, thank you. Good. Due to the possible massive intrusion and potential for harm to native wildlife living within the Red Box Wildlife Shelter caused by the proposed music festival at 100 Allendale Road, Elphinstone, and the fact that Council have, notwithstanding our objection and objections from many local residents and members of the community, we shall be forced to file an application with VCAT. This is incredibly inconvenient and stressful for us. But it is not what we want to be spending our time doing. Our job is to care for Australian native wildlife, principally kangaroos, and to keep them safe from harm. I have been deeply disappointed by the lack of understanding about how the music festival will impact the shelter and the kangaroos living and rehabilitating there. Council have elected, instead of supporting local people and the shelter, to support people from Melbourne who don't pay rates or contribute to the local community, and to support the music festival happening in close proximity to the shelter. There is no reason why the music festival should take place so close to our shelter. There are many other alternatives, including purpose-built grounds in Castlemaine. There are at least half a dozen free camping grounds 6 minutes to Castlemaine. It was recently reported on social media as saying, I objected to the music festival taking place. That is untrue. I object to it taking place so close to our property. It has been raised on social media that we failed to engage in objections at an earlier time. We would have, but we did not receive any notification from the organisers about the proposed music festival. It is my understanding that any applicant for an event must inform affected people. This never happened, and I understand many other affected people were never advised. No regulation notice was posted to us. We were denied natural justice to object, and this shall be raised in VCAT. We found out by word of mouth sometime after the application had been lodged with Council. I would also like to say that should the music festival proceed, Red Box Wildlife Shelter takes no responsibility or liability for damages should one of our resident kangaroos become traumatised by the volume of vehicles and noise that will be happening. It is likely some kangaroos, in trying to escape, will head for the Calder Freeway. We deny any responsibility for damages to motor vehicles or drivers of these vehicles should any kangaroos be struck by a car and cause damage to motor vehicles, or at worst, people are harmed. My question relates to Council's decision at the ordinary Council meeting on the 16th of February 2021 to conditionally approve permit application PA 047/2020 against the direct advice of Council officers. What specific consideration has been given to the animal welfare concerns that this event undoubtedly proposes to wildlife, stock animals and domestic animals? And furthermore, who is liable for resulting injury/death caused as a result of this event being allowed to proceed against the advice of Council officers, which may give rise to compensatory damages and/or general damages? That, Mayor, is the question.
Thanks for reading that out, Councillor Henderson. I'd ask our Director of Infrastructure, Jess Howard, to respond to that, please, Jess.
Sorry, is that working? Yes. Thank you, Mayor. In relation to the statement and questions raised, some of these matters have been addressed in recent correspondence from officers to the person asking the questions, Ms Midwell, and so the process-related matters have been addressed in correspondence. In terms of the substantive questions, as the matter was determined by Council at a Council meeting in February, the decision-making process was recorded, it's on our website, and that debate and discussion from councillors is available for anyone that's a member of the public to see the matters that were considered and the deliberation that occurred. In terms of further questions or concerns about the permit, as the matter's now going to VCAT, that's going to be a matter that VCAT needs to hear and determine. That's not a live matter in front of Council anymore.
Thank you, Director Howard. We'll move on to the next question. It's from Shona McDonald. To whom it may concern, I have interest in more information about the declaration of climate emergency and currently the direction of actions being taken. I also have an interest in decisions about the use of glyphosate and the care and regeneration of soil relating to climate change. Could there be an update on what the plan is with the current Council towards climate change, including actions being taken and date deadlines? Also, how to involved. Thank you. Kind regards, Shona McDonald. Director Howard, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Ms McDonald for her question about climate change. As many people in this room would be aware, Council declared a climate emergency last year, and in follow-up to that has taken a number of actions, including adopting a roadmap to zero net emissions for council operations by 2025. And Council is also providing support to a community transition plan to see the Shire move to zero net emissions by 2030. That is an ongoing process with the community, and I'm happy to ask officers to get in touch with Shona McDonald to pass on the details of how she can get involved in that process as it continues.
Thanks for that, Director Howard. We'll move on. The next one is in relation to fruit fly, and it's sent in by Terry Willis. Hi, can a question be asked in public question time if you're not in attendance? Well, yes, it can. Unfortunately, I cannot make the meeting tomorrow night on March 16th. I would still like to have a question about fruit fly asked to councillors. The time is relevant as I have emailed a letter about the fruit fly crisis to each councillor today. And yes, we did receive the email. Also, I met with Lauren Watt today to discuss the issue as well. My question is, can council give a costing to how much money will be lost to the local economy and businesses if Queensland fruit fly becomes widespread in the Shire? Director Howard, would you like to answer that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Mr Willis for his question. For those who are not aware, Terry has been absolutely central to helping coordinate response to presence of Queensland fruit fly in the Shire, and has put in lots of volunteer time to try and help us respond. As Terry notes in his question, he's raised this issue. There's been increasing numbers of fruit fly in the Shire this summer, and I understand that the current wetter than normal conditions and higher rainfall this year have contributed to making it a particularly good season for fruit fly. And there has been meetings with officers very recently to try and understand if there's more that can be done. Council's played a really active role in trying to provide education to the community around Queensland fruit fly and the risk that it poses, particularly to horticulture. On the specific question about the potential economic impact, we don't have that data to hand, but we do know that horticulture contributes a significant amount to our economy, around $18 million a year, as I understand. So getting on top of Queensland fruit fly is something that council staff have been helping to do in the past, and we're looking to continue to work with Mr Willis in the future.
Thanks for that, Director Howard. I'd just note that the existence or presence of Queensland fruit fly is a matter of concern, and councils will do some investigation on that, because it's something that has the potential. My understanding is more related to stone fruit, but anyway, we'll find out a little bit more. So thank you for that question. Okay, the next question is from Sally Captain, and the question is, I request documented evidence of the removal of 2 metres of fill on the 3 sides of the improved access area outside number 37 Farnsworth Street, Castlemaine. Thank you, Sally Captain. And I'll also direct that one to Director Howard.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to Sally for her question. In response to this request, I can confirm that this matter has been raised previously and has been addressed in previous correspondence to other residents in the vicinity of this property. The council engineer was on site to observe rectification works to remove fill around the end of last year, and to ensure that the removal was completed in accordance with the parameters that were requested by council. That work occurred, and the fill was removed as required.
Thanks for that, Director Howard. I'm just having a look at this next one. Thanks for that. Oh, it is the same. Okay, we'll move on. It's just sorting out a couple of the questions now. Is Veronica Hunt present? Not with us this evening. Well, I'll read the question if Veronica is not with us. So there's a statement here. On Thursday, 12th of March 2021, there was an article published in the Herald Sun which quoted Councillor Maltby as stating, anything that will boost the economy that has gone through COVID is good for the community. I put to Council this question for purpose of clarification. Does a COVID stimulus plan exist in which Councillor Maltby uses as his evidence that the proposed festival will have any positive impact on the community of Elphinstone, considering the festival organisers have provided documentation that their service providers are primarily from Melbourne, Bendigo, Keilor, Bayswater, and is the COVID stimulus plan available for public record? Councillor Maltby, would you like to comment? CEO is going to comment.
Mayor and Councillor Maltby may wish to jump in if I misunderstand, but I don't believe Councillor Maltby feels that he did refer to an economic stimulus plan because there isn't one. There are many items that you included, of course, as you know, in your budget, the current year budget, to respond to the impacts of COVID-19 restrictions on the community. They are certainly attempted to be listed, probably not all of them in the detail that does them justice, but they are attempted to be listed in the budget document that is freely available on the website, Mayor. So there's not a plan as such, but there's certainly a lot of actions that the council adopted in its budget to try to support the community for COVID restriction impacts.
And Mr. Mayor, quite simply, what I said is that an activity like this will boost the economy, and history tells us that visitors to the area continue to come back once they've visited. If there's 1,500 people come to this music festival, I'm sure the economy will benefit not only that weekend, but for many, many years to come.
Thanks for that. Firstly, our Chief Executive Officer, Darren Fuzzard, and then Councillor Maltby. Appreciate your response. Okay, that completes our written questions. Is there anyone from the floor? We've got. Is Ian Edwards here? Yeah. So if I could get Ian Edwards to come to the lectern, please. 3 minutes. So you have 3 minutes to speak, and you want a minute and a half. Yeah. Well, you can do it that way if you like, but if you come, you have your minute. You'll have your minute and a half, and you can ask a question. That's fine. If you could introduce yourself before you start, and Over to you. Thank you.
Is this on already? Yeah. Thank you, councillors. I'm Lisa Pollard. I currently reside in Johnson Street, Castlemaine, but I have lived in the precinct that we're talking about. Our issue is the Froomes Road Bridge. 4 generations of my children's family have lived in this area, and it's one of the most beautiful areas in Castlemaine. We have seen changes along that period of time, but this current change that council is proposing goes far in advance of anything that's happened previously and will totally destroy the area. The area has 6 overlays already, which have been implemented by council and council staff in consultation with other governing bodies, such as Heritage Victoria, the Indigenous community. So some of the areas are heritage, Indigenous, rural, significant landscape and environmental. This in itself supports the decision by council to be overturned with the removal of the bridge and replaced with a 2-lane massive bridge that will allow double bogey trucks to travel along this minor road to a rural residential area. So we really strongly urge council and council staff to consider their decisions and perhaps change their mind if they are in support of this decision.
Put yourself in 100 years' time, council. People will thank you when the great bacon factory trucks trundle through the town carrying maybe protein pork, could be vegetable protein by then, let's hope so, and the huge Magni trains go along the line past the park. They will look back to your wise decision when you said, let's keep this small area as a beautiful, historic, heritage, and natural area. They'll look back and they'll say, that 1-lane bridge, maybe they'll say the famous Mayor Cordy Bridge. They'll thank you. 100 years' time, those houses will be 260 years old. The gardens will be that much older as well. You will be thanked if you support us now.
So, Director Howard, would you like to add any comment to that or not? Well, I'm not sure exactly where we're going to end up with Froomes Road Bridge, but I can assure you there's some interesting debate. Yes, Councillor Gardner.
Just for the benefit of, Lisa and Ian. So at the next council meeting, that matter is brought to our council meeting for a decision. Is that the process, just so they're aware?
Mayor, that's the intention, is to bring the matter back to you. Yep.
Yes. So at this point, council is still to make a final decision on Froomes Road Bridge. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But thank you for your comments.
Mayor, could I request at this stage? I've heard several times now a reference, and I've in the past to, of the 6 overlays that affect the decisions to be made about this bridge. Could that details of those 6 overlays that are referred to repeatedly by the community, could the details of those please be included in the report when we receive it? I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Henderson. Okay. Any further questions? Yes, we've got one over here. Please come up to the lectern. Please introduce yourself, and you've got 3 minutes, and then you can ask a question. Thank you.
My name is David Recco. My question is in relation to the earthworks on the Heritage Overlay 668 on public land in Farnsworth Street, carried out under a minor works permit. For the last 11.5 months, myself and other residents have made numerous attempts to secure an on-site meeting with council officers, as this would be the clearest way at looking at the unresolved issues firsthand. These requests have been ignored or refused. Finally, at last month's council meeting, Councillor Gardner asked Jess Howard to arrange an on-site meeting. Yet 1 month later, we have not progressed. My question is, why is council avoiding an on-site meeting with key locals in relation to this matter?
Thanks for your question. Director Howard, would you like to respond? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Rako for his question. My apologies, that meeting hasn't been arranged. The officer that is going to meet with you is currently on leave, and I'll ensure that that gets arranged as soon as she's back.
Thank you, Director Howard.
Pinky promise.
You right?
Is that a pinky promise?
Beg your pardon?
Okay. Gallery, yes, we've got another person wants to speak to us. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, look, my name's Alice Batherson, and again, it's about the same earthworks on the public land in Farnsworth Street on the Heritage Overlay 668. It said, Council committed to removing the illegally constructed barricade of treated pine poles on the public land in December 2020. Why are they still there 3 months later? And going back to Jess's answer about an engineer having been present at the earthworks rectification, if there was an engineer present, and I'm sure there was, how did the poles get placed into that earthworks when there's no permit for them, there were no designs, and they were not part of the council's design response to that area? And when will these poles go?
Thanks for your question. Director Howard.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Ms Matheson for her question. In relation to the first bit about how did the poles end up there, if there was an engineer on site, the engineer was on site to supervise the removal of fill, and the poles were put in subsequently. The other part of your question is, will the poles be removed? Yes, they will, and they'll be removed when it is possible to schedule it with the works part of council.
Thank you, Director Howard. Any further questions from the floor this evening, ladies and gentlemen? No, appears not. Can I have a motion to resume standing orders, please, Council? Councillor Maltby.
Second.
Seconded. Councillor Henderson. All in favour? Good. Petitions and joint letters, nil. Committee reports, nil. Yes, you're welcome. Welcome to leave. There's some pretty exciting stuff coming up, but we'll see you next time. Great to have you here. Okay.
We've still got Eve.
9.2. Response to petition change speed zones in the Parrying Up precinct. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Gardner.
Yes, as printed.
Have a seconder, please. Councillor Driscoll. Any objection? No objection. Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the officers for taking on this task, and I know I had a meeting last night in Barringup and mentioned this to them, and so they were pretty excited it's got to this stage. Yeah, so thank you on their behalf.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? No? Then I declare the matter carried. There's no objection. Thank you. (9.2.2) Response to petition sealing of Barker and Bagshaw Streets in Harcourt. Councillors, do I have a motion?
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council responds to the first signatory on the petition, advising that the roads identified will be considered for design as part of the 21-22 budget process.
Thanks for that, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McClure. Any objectors, councillors? No. Would you like to speak further to this, Councillor Maltby?
It's self-explanatory.
I used to live there, so I better not comment. Long time ago. Okay, being no objection, I declare the matter.
The roads were Barker and Bagshaw Street. Sorry.
Declare the matter carried. Thank you. (9.3.1) 2020-2021 Financial Report Quarter 2. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Driscoll.
Yes, the recommendation is, my motion is the council notes the finance report for the 6-month period 31st of December 2020.
Do I have a seconder, please, councillors? Councillor O'Neill, thank you. Any objections? No objections. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the report?
Yes, yes I can. Regular review of financial performance and reporting of council activities provides an overview of how different programs and projects are being delivered. This reporting assists monitoring council's achievement and objectives of the strategic resource plan and annual budget, whilst ensuring that council is financially sustainable in the long term. Specifically with this report, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. There's an overall favourable year-to-date performance of 12.6 million surplus, which is 1.2 million greater than the year-to-date budget. Revenue is unfavourable of 1.2 million, which is a 3% variance below the year-to-date budget, but this is mainly due to delays in receipts of expected grants. And once again, the expenditure is similarly as favourable as 2.24 million, which is a 10% variance below the year-to-date budget, but this is mainly due to delays experienced in the materials and services spending across the organisation.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? No, that's fine. I'd just like to acknowledge the work of Director Knight and the finance team, and particularly led by Carolyn Ross. It's a fantastic report. It's very detailed, and it shows that council's being well run and managed. So thank you all concerned in that report. There being no objections, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. 9.3.2, Annual Plan Progress Report. Councillors, we've got a recommendation. We have a motion, please. Councillor Henderson. As printed?
Yes, certainly, Mayor. As printed, we note the Annual Plan Progress Report 2020-21 for quarter 2.
Thank you for that, Councillor Henderson. Have we got a seconder, please? Councillor McClure. Any objectors? No objectors. Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak to the report?
I think I'd better. Big time for the night. Well, this is only until the end of 2020, of course. We're already halfway through March, so it's, in terms of currency, it's 2.5 months behind, but that's the way things work in reports, of course. We have to have done it all before we can report on it. My favourite pickup from previous ones of the off-lead dog park still waiting to be done, of course, is now a thing of the past, and the dogs are happy in their fully fenced park in Wesley Hill. And of course now I just hear cries for yet another one, which can take another 10 years before we get that one established, but never mind. So things are moving along pretty well. Some things are stalling a bit. I'd like to see some action on the small town streetscape upgrades, which the towns of Elphinstone and Taradale and Tewton are very excited about. I can notice that the footpath in Tewton has been built along the main road, and that's great to see. Working very hard there, but we're looking forward to those beautification projects that will mean a lot to the little towns, but I understand that the council officers are working hard to engage local contractors, if at all possible, on that project. So hopefully that will come to fruition soon. Certainly the trees went in, and it was a very good time to plant trees because of the wet winter and spring that we've had. So all the trees that were planted are looking very healthy. Very pleased about that. One thing that's certainly worth noting, councillors, in the light of the recent housing forum, community housing forum that was held in this very place, in this town hall of ours, and which 5 of us attended not 2 weeks ago, is that we do have an item called social housing, and we're meant to be completing the concept plans for 2 preferred sites. They're council sites. There was a sum of money there, which was grant money, but I believe because of the state government's big build initiative, council staff are changing tack a bit from what was originally planned and are now working with Homes Victoria, used to be called Department of Housing, to make available new social housing in our shire via various means, making use of council and perhaps also state land. So that's really something that we can look forward to coming to fruition, at least getting a plan there for it to happen using the state government money that's available, and working with organisations that build such housing. Before the end of this financial year, we might have something in place. I'm not saying an actual house or two, I'm saying a plan to build. So the CEO is smiling. Our Director of Infrastructure and Development is also smiling, but then she's got a good reason to smile. So thank you. Apart from that, yes, it's a good report, and it says that things are progressing. Thank you.
Thanks for that excellent report, Councillor Henderson. Does anyone else want to comment about the report? Councillor Gardner.
Yeah, there was, apart from what Councillor Henderson said, I'd note, there's two things I want to note. One might be because I'm a bit brain dead, but, and I didn't pick it up before, and I apologise about that. The NDIS feasibility study is going ahead, so I think that's a really good thing. I did note, and it is becoming a public document, and I'm probably should have picked this up earlier, and I didn't. The Malden Streetscape says target completion date 31st 12th 2020. The item Malden Streetscape. That's just an amendment to change that, I think, because it's not going to be finished by.
So, Mayor, I'll stand corrected if Director Howard wants to correct me, but the dates that we've got in there in relation to Malden Streetscape, it's one of those rare ones that has got multi-years.
Yes, that's correct, it does, yeah.
So the date that we put in there is basically reflecting that there's an element of the work that we've got to finish this year, and that's what we are aiming towards. Then there will be a new date for the following year, and then possibly a new date for the one after that. So it's multi-year projects are difficult to represent because we're trying to say that's the year's work as opposed to many years of work.
And I'm assuming that one is just for the power undergrounding.
That's
the completion date would be June.
The
target completion date for that element would be June, not 31st 12th 2020. Sorry.
True.
Yeah.
True. Is there other elements in there?
No, I don't think so. Sorry, I should have picked it up earlier. I just, because it's a public document, I just wonder if we should change it.
We can correct that if that's the case. We might just have a look at it.
This document is a point in time, and obviously with that project, because it's in delivery, that's sort of an estimate at that point in time that the document's prepared. So this is for Q2, which is up to the end of December last year. Obviously, we've made some really good progress with the Malden project, and it's probably, we haven't hit any of the barriers that we thought we might, so it's running really well. So when you get the Q3 report, it may be that there'll be some amended dates that we can put in there. We'll have a bit more confidence about when it's going to be done.
Oh, no, there's been great progress. I know. 2 power outages.
Thanks for that, all. There being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item, 9.3.3, resourcing of a new waste coordinator role. Councillors, got a recommendation to have a motion, please. Councillor Gardner?
Yes, as printed. Sorry, I'll get it up. Basically, we're seeking to fund a waste coordinator on a full-time basis, and the funding, it'll be funded out of the waste recovery budget we have.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Do I have a seconder, please, councillors? Councillor O'Neill, any objections? No objections. Do you wish to speak to the matter, please, Councillor Gardner?
Yeah, sure. This is actually a very important position. We do have a lot of things going on in waste at the moment, and possibly a lot more coming. Obviously, there's the reform by the state government coming our way. We've obviously got planned for cell capping a proposed waste recovery. We currently have existing contracts in place, and obviously we have councillors also currently who have some ideas on waste. So the idea of this this position is to sort of try and coordinate that over the next couple of years. And I know that also another important part is the creation of a community reference group. And I believe the terms of reference are coming out soon, seeking people on it to support council to guide it. So I would encourage my fellow councillors to support this allocation out of our waste reserve fund, because this is one thing that we do have to get right as a council.
Thanks for that, Councillor Gardner. Would anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Yes,
can I
Councillor Henderson.
just say that I'm very pleased that the officers, the executive are taking this step. I think it shows that we are serious about what's coming our way in waste, what we have to, our obligations under state legislation, but also that we're going to manage this in a much more serious way overall. I believe the mythical rate capping, goodness me, cell capping is finally going to take place, but for it to actually happen, it needs to be managed at a pretty senior level. And I think this position will allow that senior position to take charge of that project, which will be highly technical, expensive, be using a lot of our waste reserve. That's why we've been stacking up so much money over the years to finally cap the old cells that hold all our waste from the past 25 years, 35 years since ever that landfill was first built. And I believe that our CEO has finally persuaded the EPA to see sense, and so that we can do a reasonable job without spending 3 times as much. But yeah, we certainly need someone to look after this area, and this is good. Can we just have a little remembrance about the waste reference group that's proposed? Could I ask Director Infrastructure and Development just to tell us what's happening there so that we can give it a promo?
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. So as Councillor Gardner and yourself have noted, there's a lot going on in the waste space for us, both in terms of projects that we're going to need to build or design, and also respond to reform that's coming our way from the state government in terms of separation of glass, separation of food and organic waste. There are reforms that are going to be brought in over the next up to 10 years. And so what we're proposing, and we're hoping to release this to the community soon, is calling for expressions of interest for a community waste reference group to help council understand the things that are important to the community, help think about what sorts of things we need at our resource recovery centre or whatever takes the place of the current transfer station in the future, what sorts of things we should consider, what's important to the community, and also business is a really important part of this as well. What things that we currently just throw away could we potentially make better use of, repurpose? Where is there in our community businesses who might want to use that waste? So there's lots and lots of opportunity to get involved, to try and reduce the waste to landfill, and the buzzword is the circular economy, try and keep things in use for as long as possible, and we'd love to have the community involved to help us.
Thanks for that, Director Howard and Councillor Henderson. Councillors, any further comments around the motion before us? Being no further comment, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. Move on to 9.3.4, appointment of new Community Asset Committee members. Just a little bit of background there. In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, at a special meeting of Council on 1st of September 2020, Council established Community Asset Committees and appointed members to those committees. The majority of the Community Asset Committees have since notified council of changes to their membership following their subsequent annual general meetings, and the purpose of this report is to seek approval to the updated memberships. Now, these community asset committees, they actually replace what was previously known as our Section 86 committees, which were delegated subcommittees of council. So many of the people remain the same, but there's always some changes. So, councillors, I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Maltby.
I'll move that the council appoints members to the committees and revokes memberships of retiring members as printed.
Thanks for that. Do I have a seconder, please, councillors? Councillor O'Neill. Is there any objection to this? No, that's good. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to the what's before you?
It's very good that these people are volunteering to run their local community facilities on behalf of the whole community and council. And I'm sure that the local councillors will help them the best they can.
Councillor O'Neill, do you wish to speak?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, I just for the record, I'll just run through what committees we're talking about tonight. The Sparring Up Community Association, Campbell's Creek Recreation Reserve, Elphinstone Community Facilities, Guildford Hall, Guildford Recreation Reserve, John Powell Reserve, Malden Community Centre, Metcalfe Hall, Muckleford Community Centre, Newstead Community Centre, Taradale Hall, Taradale Recreation Reserve, Wattle Flat Reserve. And that's not the complete list, but that's what we have before us this evening. And I'd just like to acknowledge the work that all these members of our community put into running these very important facilities right across Mount Alexander Shire. So well done, and many thanks to the retiring members. Everyone's got pressures on their time, and really appreciate their service over the years. And I'm sure the new committee members will do a great job. So well done.
I just also wanted to reiterate that, Councillor Cordy, that these people are volunteering their times and they do a great job, and I think that's really great.
Sorry about that. I lost my page. Okay, 9.3.5, approval of Audit and Risk Committee Charter. Do I have a motion? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I move that council approve the Audit and Risk Committee Charter.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do I have a second, please, councillors? Councillor McClure. Any objections? No objections. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to talk to that?
Thank you, Mayor. The Audit and Risk Committee is a committee council under Section 50 of the Local Government Act. Under the 2020 Act, council was required to adopt a new committee charter by the 1st of September 2020. This charter was, a working group was formed and they developed the draft charter. Then it was given to an independent review. It was undertaken by an experienced auditor and considerable feedback was provided. This resulted, came back to the Audit and Risk Committee and it's put up for today. So I'm on that Audit and Risk Committee, and I think that this charter's fine.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Would anyone else like to speak? No, there being no objection, I declare the matter carried. We now move on to Section 10, Delegates Reports. Councillors, has anyone got a delegate report? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Last Thursday, I went to the business Mount Alexander. They're sort of rejigging that, and it was about 60 small business people there, and I think it was really enthusiastic and well run. And I think there's a new vigour in that. And I just wanted to note, they had several speakers of small business people who started the business in the middle of COVID, and overwhelmingly there was female business owners who started during COVID, new businesses. So we've got a bunch of new businesses that started during COVID, which run by females, and it's fantastic. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Thanks for that, Councillor Driscoll. Councillors, any further reports? I'll hand over to our Chief Executive Officer, Darren Fuzzard, his report.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillors, you have the list of activities that the Mayor and I have been involved with over the last month, since the 17th of February to today. So I won't go through those in detail. I will pick up on one in a moment though, Mayor. But before I do that, I just wanted to say, and we saw an amazing example about what range our directors have to deal with tonight. We got to see the range of things that Director Howard has to deal with, and Director Knight has the same kind of possibilities of talking about anything and everything across a broad spectrum of activities in her area also. But in general, in public question time tonight, as well as some reports, you saw just how broad the role is that that Director Howard has to manage. The reason I'm saying that, Mayor, is sadly tonight is Director Howard's last council meeting with us, which is even sadder, her last week with us. We were lucky enough to get Jess basically from the state government about a year or so ago, and they've raised the stakes on us and brought in the Premier to steal her back. So Jess is leaving us to become, I'll get the title right, Jess, the Director of Policy and Cabinet in the Premier Daniel Andrews' office. And that starts as soon as they both get back to work, I think. So huge congratulations to you, Jess. That's an incredible achievement for you. A wonderful thing for all of Victoria, I think, to have you in that role. But very sad for us, because the work that you were doing here was just extraordinary. Your intelligence, your thought, your care, and your effort to get things done was really quite wonderful in the unfortunately very short time that we had you here, and we very much appreciate we had that chance to do some work with you anyway, and wish you all the best. And we know that you'll be doing your best for local government when you get in the Premier's ear from now on, I'm sure. But yeah, big congratulations to you, Jess, on that, and we're very sorry to see you go. So, Mayor, I'll just with that, one item I was going to mention was the Loddon Campaspe Partnership meeting. So the actual meeting, there was a welcome actually earlier in the week, which Director Howard represented me at, which was held in our shire, which I understand was a fantastic event. But the meeting itself of the new members of the Loddon Campaspe Regional Partnership happened just last week, which I attended as a member as usual. I mention that because it's really done a lot of great things for our community and the entire Loddon Campaspe community in the time that it's existed. We've had some great wins there, and probably one of the ones that we've all been most excited about there was to get $5 million from the state government to do the Healthy Hearted Victoria initiative, which was born and bred out of our region and has become an incredibly successful project for delivering really important health initiatives that would have been really hard for us to get done in other ways. So that's one we're very excited about. We have got a budget bid in actually for, again, through the regional partnership for another $7 million to go towards that initiative, and we'll be waiting eagerly to see what happens in about May, I think, if it'll be announced in that budget. The other thing I just mentioned from that meeting, so the group came together with new members for the first time since we got the new community members, and I just wanted to note that one of the new community members is Rhonda Chapman, who you may remember from Cahoots Co-working, one of the co-founders of Cahoots Co-working down in town. So great to have another person literally from our shire on that Loddon Campaspe Regional Partnerships group now. So congratulations to her. I'll leave it there, man.
Thanks for that, CEO. And on behalf of councillors, I'd just also like to congratulate Director Jess for her appointment. It's a fantastic appointment, and we wish her every success, and I'm sure she won't forget us here in Mount Alexander Shire. So well done, Director Jess, and wish you all the very best for the future. Okay, notices of motion, nil. Urgent special business, nil. Confidential items. Councillors, I've got a recommendation there. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move that council closes the ordinary meeting of council 16th of March 2021 in accordance with section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 in order to consider confidential matters.
Councillors, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Henderson. All in favour? Carried. Thank you to the public for coming along. Thank you, Eve. Great to have you back with us this evening. And we'll carry on with our confidential items shortly.
Screen's off, camera's off.